Welcome to Sip, Sell, Repeat, the real estate podcast for women who know success is best served with a great cup of coffee or a well-earned glass of wine. I'm Dr. Cynthia Tant, your go-to real estate expert, here to help you navigate the market with strategy, style, and a little bit of fun. Whether you're flipping your first property, scaling your portfolio, or just dreaming about your next big move, this is the place for you. So grab your drink of choice, settle in, and let's sip, sell, and repeat our way to success. Let's get started.
Welcome to Sip, Sell, Repeat in Real Estate with Dr. Cynthia Tant. I am so excited today to be able to speak with Andrea Gordon, correct? Yes. And she is from, I guess you would say, the Berkeley, San Francisco. I'm going to let her explain a little bit about her background. And we've just basically introduced ourselves, have a lot of the same background, and been in real estate for some time, and college lecturers and professors and real estate. I don't know how that all intertwines, but it's been our lives for the past 27, 28 years. Anyways, Andrea, introduce yourself to our group, the ladies today, and tell us a little bit about you and how you got started.
Great. Hi, my name is Andrea Gordon, and I'm with Compass in Berkeley, California. I service all over the Bay Area. I'm an unusual peripatetic realtor because I go on the San Francisco side as well as in the Inner East Bay. I'm the top producer for Compass in Berkeley, Oakland, on all the Inner East Bay, which means not Lafayette, Orinda, Moraga, those places. I do sell there occasionally, but that's not my main focus. And I started out in San Francisco, so I still do a lot of work in San Francisco, Daly City, and Pacifica. My family's over on that side, so a lot of different past clients, what have you, over there. And I started in real estate 27 years ago at this point. I worked out of an office in Daly City, and I ended up getting into real estate after a long career in theater where I ran several different nonprofit theater companies. I have my master's from San Francisco State University in directing. And so I also taught at a bunch of different universities all over the state of California. And with that and $2.50, I could buy myself a cup of coffee. So I decided I needed to get a real job, and I got my license in real estate. And because theater and real estate are completely analogous skill sets, I actually made 6 sales my very first month in the business, and I've pretty much done that every month since. So it's been a wild, wonderful ride. The people I meet in real estate are phenomenal, really great, collegial, nice people who all work very hard. I started my own podcast, which is called Realizations, which is all about wanting to introduce the American public to what it is we realtors do, because I think that the reason why we've had these commission lawsuits and the NAR DOJ kerfuffle was because people don't know what we do. Therefore, they don't respect what we do. And because they don't respect what we do, they don't think we're worth paying our commissions. And the reality is we earn every dime probably 4 times over. So I thought rather than be mad about those lawsuits, I would create a podcast where I brought people on to talk about all the different ways in which realtors intersect with different vendors, politics, cities, condition problems in houses, what have you. So I've brought, to that effect, I've brought on people like Robert Refkin, who is the founder and CEO of my company. I have brought on investors, I've brought on painters, plumbers, interior designers. I've brought people from all walks of real estate life, people that do varying forms of real estate. I've brought on appraisers. I've brought on people that are commercial brokers. I've brought all those kinds of people together because I want people to see how many people we intersect, how we affect people's lives. I've also brought a lot of people that are very involved with charities on because a lot of realtors give back massively. Myself, my charities are different theater companies that I work with and work for, as well as I'm very involved in animal rescue. And one of the things I'm most proud of in my entire life is that 3 years ago, I raised $450,000 for the Berkeley Humane Society. And I continue to pay for the food for the animals 6 months out of the year. So I wanted to come on as many podcasts as I can because I think getting the word out as much as we possibly can is a really good thing.
I think that a lot of us always, when we start talking about we as realtors and as women too, we do a lot of stuff and but we involve a lot of people because it takes a team.
Yep.
I like to talk to people and try to explain in very simple terms, tell stories because that always works the best. But look at a wheel of a bicycle. We're sitting in the middle of it, and we got the spokes going everywhere to every single person you can ever think of. And then we have to coordinate it all because if it doesn't, then the wheel comes off the bike, basically. And so whether it is the inspector or the plumber or whoever it is that we're dealing with in the title company and or some whether you're buyer or seller who's not cooperating or whatever that we're the negotiator, we bring the cookies to the close. So a lot of people I love your also podcasting idea because people really don't know how much we do. And once they understand it, it's not that big of a barrier when we're talking to them. I enjoy this question that always comes to me, and it happened to me today. Is what do you charge a commission? And I go, how do you know how much I'm worth? And it just floored the person because a lot of people just come out, oh, 5, 6 or whatever. I said, how do you know how much I'm worth? And she said, what? I said, I'm interviewing you like you're interviewing me. And if I haven't told you what I can do and will do for you, how do you know how much I'm worth? And she was just like, oh, that's a really good point. So it was just like going back and forth with that. And we came to a very good conclusion. But yes, the things that are happening, when you said, gosh, what was it about what is happening right now with the real estate compensation, quote, and everything that's happened, how are you finding that with buyer? Now, I'm dealing with a very different price point than you are in your
Yeah, I
area.
told you he'd bark.
Yeah. Oh,
Tiffany.
yeah, that's okay. That's all right. What kind of puppy you got there?
He is a mutt. He's, of course, because I'm into animal rescue, I always rescue
Rescue.
everybody. And I did one of those DNA tests, and he's like a third Chihuahua, a third Jack Russell Terrier, a third poodle, and then mystery dog. So
You just never know. I know.
exactly.
And they bring such joy to our lives. I've got a 13 and a half year old right now, Dachshund, and it's getting a little slow here. And with a
Aw.
94-year-old mom, both of them are like their best buddies. And
That's
but
lovely.
so what how are you finding that with your buyers and your sellers and trying to explain to them what is going on because they hear all kinds of crazy stuff.
I had no problem whatsoever personally dealing with any of my buyers and getting them to sign what's called a BRBC, which is the buyer broker agreement. And because it makes perfect sense I'm actually really happy about it because in all the years I've been doing real estate, when you're listing a property, you sign a listing agreement. But when you are working with a buyer, you haven't signed anything. You could have, but most people
Could have.
haven't the whole time. And then I've had a lot when you're a baby agent and you're driving people around at the first part of your career, you can spend hours and hours in the car and then they go and work with their brother-in-law at the end. They never bothered to tell you that their brother-in-law was a realtor.
Yeah.
Or it's just a way, or they go to a Sunday open house and they write
Open house. Yeah.
with the agent that's there. And so a buyer
Yeah.
broker agreement actually protects you. The issue is for people that are less senior in the business, to me and Cynthia, they don't know how to talk to their buyers about things like money, which also there's a certain amount of imposter syndrome that all young agents have where they can't believe that they've lucked into this amazing profession and they're concerned that maybe they're not worth it on some level. They've got an inner critic that doesn't want to talk about money, that money is evil and bad and they shouldn't. Personally, I love money. Money is awesome. Money is a tool. Money is how you move along in the world. It's how you shape your own destiny. It's not, I want everyone to have a fair shake and a fair chance to make it out in the world. But the reality is that you are worth the money that you get paid. If you're going to spend 20 hours a week for 5 months with a buyer trying to find them the house that they want to buy because it's very hard for them in the financial situation that they're in, that's not fair if you don't get paid adequately for that work. It just isn't.
Oh,
So,
totally
so
agree.
to me, it should be the easiest thing in the world to sit down with your buyers and talk with them. And what it does is it forces each side to know what the duties of each side are. It forces each side to know how they're going to work with that person. If the person is reticent to pay you 2.5 or 3% for essentially giving your life over to them for several months, you got to think long and hard about whether you even want to work with that person, to be honest. So it's a really good thing in my mind's eye. It should have happened a long time ago. I actually will take it one step further and think that the NAR DOJ lawsuits that occurred should have just made it that the sellers pay their agent and the buyers pay their agent, and then that would have been a clean break for everybody, and there wouldn't have been this weird little netherworld where we're all wondering about whether the buyer can afford to pay the commission or whether the seller is going to pay the commission. It gets really strange. And it used to be that in the contract itself, it says that the agents are paid from the proceeds. It does not say who pays the agent from the proceeds. So that's the other part of this. Those lawsuits never needed to happen. It was already there in the legalese that we had in our own contracts that had already existed. So, and also think about this. The lawyers that adjudicated the NAR DOJ lawsuits and where major corporations were paying billions of dollars,
Billions.
they were paid their standard professional fee of 40%. Now, don't you think that's hypocritical that they were getting their standard professional fee when we are not allowed to create a standard professional fee? When you go to the grocery and you buy an orange, the greengrocer has priced that orange. That orange has a cost. You buy that orange. If you want to pay for that orange, you buy it, right? At that price. You go to a lawyer. They say their fee is $500 an hour, right? If you need that lawyer, you're going to pay that lawyer $500 an hour. You go to the doctor. The doctor tells you how much. You go through your insurance. Your insurance tells you exactly what your copay is. So why is it not okay for realtors to have a standard professional fee themselves? That's what I think commissions should actually be called. Beyond that, when you think about it, I did a little bit of research because I'm just like that. I'm a nerd. 70% of realtors are female.
All right.
Of,
Yep.
of the 30% that are men, 50% are people of color. I just want to point that out. Okay. So when people are making lawsuits about our standard professional fees, who are they hurting? They're hurting women and they're hurting minorities.
And it's still, I think there's still the NAR, what do the statistics still say the average female or average realtor is a 55-year-old female? Is that still the standard? And then,
Yep.
but then when you look at who owns now I own my own company. So who owns the company is predominantly men. It's getting
Nine
better.
Nine, it's not getting better. Nine, I know these stats because when I started my PhD, I was going to do women real estate and ageism. But then I
Yeah.
got depressed when I started looking up all these stats and I decided to shift it to women, ageism, and theater. 9% of
Only nine.
senior real estate offices are held by men. So the
Yeah.
executive offices, huge upper
Right.
management is all male.
Yeah.
And they, by the way, are not hurt by these commission lawsuits. They're going to make money one way or another. All the major corporations, including the one that I work for, they've been engaged in creating end-to-end platforms. So they're ready to pivot if they have to just get rid of real estate agents, if that's the way the whole thing flows. Because
Yeah.
on some level, built into the whole pancake is that the value is not being placed on the realtors themselves. When we do 100% of the work and we are entrepreneurs who are not working for those companies, we just hang our own little shingle, which is our license, at those
Right.
companies. So it's really a sticky wicket.
And the other thing that you brought up as far as the theater, and I think is very interesting on how your background and how you use that in working on your PhD in your real estate profession.
Yeah.
And how those two kind of intertwine because I'm terrible from the artistic standpoint because I am the sports athletic standpoint.
Mhm.
Somehow I've never been able to get those two to come together. And
Oh,
appreciate it. I appreciate it. But I would be watching a softball game versus the ballet.
well, I
Okay,
mean,
that's
you know what? Sports is very
oh, I
dramatic.
know. Yeah. Oh, trust me, I know it's very true.
Think about a football game. It's like watching a war. It's like a Greek tragedy. And there's baseball in particular, or softball. It's so romantic. Oh my goodness, all the stats and how people care about everybody and they watch and the sound of the organ in the background. Yeah, it's all very dramatic, all of it. So it doesn't really matter where you put that focus. Just the fact that you really love something is the most important thing of all, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, yeah. And you said you got started originally in theater and then it switched over because of doing that, traveling. I know I was a professor also myself, but I was at one university or several universities during my career at that. And I got started in real estate because I started investing. And it's just, we just had the ability to do that, my brother and I here in the Pensacola area. And very, when I tell people my first things that I bought, they just die price
Mhm.
wise.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, very different way back in 1996, but still holding on to those properties. And then having the joy also as a teacher and a learner of sharing that knowledge that I've learned over these past 30 years to younger people that are getting started. I
Mhm.
just wish they would listen to you at some point in time, sometimes, because HGTV is not where you're going to really, it doesn't happen like that all the time. It doesn't happen that fast, and you're going to find some things that, but they think they know it all. So I just, okay, you
I
can
mean,
hang
I,
yourself.
I I look back and when I was in my 20s and 30s, and just like everybody, I thought I knew everything too.
Mhm.
I'm so aware that I know nothing now. It's
Yeah.
amazing. And I'm pretty wise. Wow, when I was 20, I must have been like the most naive person that ever lived.
And
Yeah.
what would you give a new agent that you may be working with? Because I do like to still do the education, new agents, and bring them along and get them going. And what is some of the information that you might want to share with a new agent, let's say,
Cool.
that you might
I
be working with?
actually was very honored this year. Compass asked me to teach a class in real estate mastery and closing. And so for 6 sessions over a period of several months, I actually had classes with all of the agents in my office. And I was very pleased because it started off that just my office was there. And by the end, there were 400 people in the room, which was awesome. And so I actually have transcribed those classes and the question and answer sessions, and I'm turning them into a book, which will be called Realizations to match with my podcast, which
Your
is also
podcast.
called Realizations. And the biggest thing I would say in to get over yourself, to not have fear and get over yourself. Everything about real estate is mindset. It really is. You can learn anything. If you went to school, you learned your multiplication tables, you learned all that stuff. Every year, the rules and the laws change. Every year, you have to open yourself up to different coursework that you have to do. And you can get through that and you can do that. But the biggest impediment to success is fear. The biggest impediment to success is an inner critic that's inside your head that says you're not good enough, you're not capable, that you have anxiety around talking to new people, all those things. I have a paperweight on the front of my desk here that says, "What would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail?" And that's one of the things I would say to a bunch of new agents is, okay, you got your license, it's learning how to drive a car. Now you have your license and now you'll actually learn how to drive the car. When you are a real estate agent, you are constantly learning. There are new situations every day. The laws change all the time. But what doesn't change is human nature. And you're always meeting people at the very worst or best points in their lives, which are all stressful, whether it's good or bad. They're getting married, they're getting divorced, they've gotten a job, they've lost a job, they've had a kid, their kid's gone off to college. All of these are very stressful human events. And so people can tend to be at their worst at the moments where you're meeting them in real estate. I have never ever had a transaction where somebody wasn't very emotional about something. It always happens. And you have to be prepared to roll with those punches. And you have to realize that you're not part of that. You're there to help them get through that. That's your job. Your entire job is being a conduit to get them to the place where they can make good decisions and move forward and close. Nobody teaches the art of salesmanship anymore. Everybody wants to be the trusted advisor, but basically, most people have to be pushed off a cliff to buy a house. When you see a person walking into an open house who finds the house they really want to buy, they don't look like they're ecstatically happy that they found that house. They do maybe for a second, and then the first thing that comes up is all the obstacles as to why they should not spend $1 million. Nobody in their right mind wants to spend $1 million. So they will come up with every argument they possibly can not to do it. And part of your job as a realtor is not to, out of self-interest over the money you would make, but really out of doing the right thing for somebody and helping them to get to where they need to get to in order to move on with their life. Because when people are looking for a house, their whole lives have actually stopped when you think about it.
Yeah, and it was very interesting because last weekend before last, a friend of mine getting married, and his mom and stepdad were my very first clients to buy a house for me
Oh, I love
27 years ago. And now he's 42, but I knew him when he was in his 20s. And so everybody's there. Mom and dad bought the house, and then they sold a house and bought another house. And then he bought a house and sold it. And his sister. So the whole kind of family kept involving. We kept involving in everything in different houses. They did move out of state, so I can't buy and sell their houses with them anymore. We do referrals, of course. But it was very interesting because a lot of their family members, even though I've known their family all these years, that were at the wedding, they didn't know the story of how I became part of their family. Oh, like,
Huh?
really? He said, yeah, Ben walked into, I was sitting at the floor, at the computer, and Ben walks into the office and holds up his checkbook and says, I'm buying a house today. And I'm going, and I'm literally first week in the business. So this happened to me. And so I go, man, this is easy. Then that was way back in, yeah. But it was very interesting on relationships in our business are so huge. We see all the now techie stuff that's going on, and everybody's going online. What, 98% of the people are going online first to look at their houses and stuff. And a seasoned investor or someone like that may not have to get the feel for the house, or a first time home buyer, someone who I'm working with a couple of ladies right now that they both own homes, but they haven't bought a house in 30 years, and they're
Right,
sisters, and
right.
they're going to come to Pensacola and they're going to buy a house together. I said, are you sure you're going to do this? It's the way they're describing it is they want to have on the other side of the house, they want to separate it out and everything. I said, all right, so you're going to give up your houses in Georgia and you're coming to Florida to be here in Pensacola. Yep. And they're in their 70s, but
Yeah.
they want to care for each other, and actually late 70s. Yeah, early 80s. And so it was very interesting to listen to them because they haven't bought houses in 30 years.
And it's so different.
It's so different. And
Yeah.
so then the young gun that comes along and gives you a contract. I don't need an agent, even though I'm a buyer. So I'm going to get a contract off the internet and I'm going to present that. Okay, you can present. That's fine. Didn't get accepted because of what you put in there or lack of put in there. But you have no representation. You've decided to do it on your own. So it went to somebody else. So being fair about it, obviously I had to present it.
Yeah.
But it was just like my seller went, what? I said, yeah.
I've been putting a percentage or 2% into my contracts with my sellers in the event that there's an unrepresented buyer because they don't know how
Right.
to do anything. I don't want the legal liability and responsibility for them if they don't want to be represented. And consequently, in order to fulfill the terms of the contract and in order to keep the transaction going and in order to get the thing closed, I'm going to have to do stuff that I ordinarily wouldn't do and
Oh,
create liability for myself. So that's
yeah.
what I do.
You know what? I didn't even think about that part because I was going, I'm still going to have to do this. I said, don't want any representation. And so as the seller and I were discussing stuff, he goes, first, the offer was ridiculous. It was just like, I'm thinking to myself, and I even mentioned it to the young couple. Oh no, we can do it all ourselves. Okay. But it was
Mhm.
just like a kind of a thing where they're reading everything up on TV or reading everything online. They're looking on TV. And that is a huge emotional decision, even though they may not have admitted to it.
And I'm to the point where when I sell one of my own properties, I hire a realtor and I'm happy to pay.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
because
a good idea.
you don't want the liability and you also don't know whether you are going to inadvertently self-sabotage because you are so emotionally connected to
Sure.
whatever it is. So
That's great.
Yeah. And by the way, in 27 years, I've double-ended a transaction 3 times exactly. I don't do it. I refer people out. If somebody comes up to me at an open house and says, I want you to represent me, and I'll be like, there's no benefit in doing that. And by the way, I don't do that. And I can refer you to somebody and I will get a referral fee from them, but
Right.
I'm not going to represent both sides ever because I don't want that liability. It's I don't know how it is in Pensacola, but California is very litigious. People, it seems like they have 6 lawyers on speed dial.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't had those many issues. We're pretty in the panhandle of Florida, and I'll leave it like that. It's very southern. It's still very southern. Yes,
Uh-huh.
ma'am, Miss Cindy, doctors, whatever it is. And we people do still do the handshake. I said, no, we're doing more than a handshake here. We're putting
Oh,
it down on
wow.
paper. Yeah.
How many pages is the contract in Pensacola, Florida?
Listing is 4,
Okay, and
and
what about a
the
contract for
sale, I think it's 7. I think it's 7.
California? It's 19.
Oh
And
gosh.
with all of the stuff that's attached to it, by the time you hand somebody an offer,
Okay.
not, and I'm not talking about disclosures, I'm talking about the disclaimers and the this and the that. It's 27 pages long.
Oh gosh. No.
And we
That's
don't
our
now, and do attorneys close your deals there?
We can. We can go to either attorneys or title companies.
Okay, here I handle the contract all the way through to the end, and then a title company closes the deal. But
Mm.
there are a lot of northern East Coast states where you literally have to go to an attorney to do the contract even.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No, no.
Yeah,
We choose. And then obviously I work with different people. If and you got to give them recommendations of where to do, go through all that process, make sure they not steer them in the wrong direction. Correct direction, but maybe not.
yeah.
But yeah, so no, we can choose either a title company or an attorney to do either one.
And that's one of the things that if I had more control over the way real estate is handled, I would
Mhm.
actually say that what we are lacking right now and what would have made our voice a lot stronger in the NAR DOJ lawsuits was if there was some way to standardize more of what we do. Because as far as
Hmm.
in my experience of doing this podcast, which has been really illuminating for me, is real estate, by and large, the people that do it are the same, similar practices, similar everything, great ethics, all that good stuff. The paperwork is very different every state.
Oh, in every state. Yeah.
And the thing is that, yes, if you're selling in a rural area and a lot of your transaction information is around wells and septic systems and fence lines and those kinds of things, that's very different than somebody who's selling a condo in New York City.
Condo.
So
Yeah.
there are going to be regional differences no matter what you do. In California, we have 8 or 10 different types of real estate all up and down the state, and it's all very different. And the way it's handled even is different. Once you pass the midline of the state, Northern California is very different the way we handle paperwork than Southern California. But if there were a way to get it to all be more standardized so we could come together more efficiently and more effectively, it would be really good for us in terms of lobbying in governmental situations. I have no doubt.
But everything's so contractual. And
Hmm?
so as the legal part comes in there, it's like I tell people as you go through, every line is numbered. For
Mhm.
some reason, somebody sued somebody at
Yep.
some line in this contract. And that's why we have this line for this. Because when you tell people that you got to do this and this, they go, but that doesn't even make sense. Oh, trust me, it does.
And by the
Because
way, the 3 times that I did dual ending something,
Mhm.
dual agency, was all 3 times it was because an attorney was on the other side of the
Other
transaction.
side.
And they
Yeah.
started looking at the contract too closely and realized that it was a voidable contract because of whatever things in there that were repeated wrong.
Legalese that you're trying to
Yeah, and
determine.
in one
Yeah.
case, a young man, he rewrote the purchase contract, and this was back when it was still more like 11 pages, not what it is now. And he rewrote it, and it was like he came back to me at 26 pages, and I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. I'm not an attorney. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And I went to my sellers and I was like, can I just do this because I have to write the papers on this? I can't.
Right, right.
Handle this, and they agreed, and I discounted my services a little bit at that point, and we actually were able to get the deal closed because basically we were careening towards they weren't willing to sign what he had written essentially.
That's what we did too. We got to the point where no, we're not going to do this. And there were other offers on the table, so theirs was not even viable really.
Right.
But you got, no, here it is, and let you make
You
it.
know, as a realtor, you're going to have that happen a lot. And especially now, because again, our profession has been so disrespected that buyers think they can do it themselves. They watch the reality TV shows and they think you go
Right.
like this and sell a house, which is not what you do. So honestly, I think that there's been a disservice done in the way in which realtors have been marketed for eons. And we need to turn that, we need to turn that around. And turning that around is going to be, it's a big, gigantic ship in the ocean, and it's going to take a long time to figure out the best way to do it. But the best way to do it is not to get realtors out of the equation. The best way to do it is by making them more central to the equation and not buying into this. You cannot buy a house the way you buy a soda from a machine. You
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
do it. It's not possible.
Or yeah, and again, for especially in my area, it's a lower income area. Our average price house is $315,000, and that even that's taking the beach houses out. But they're not even that expensive compared to a California house. But
I'm gonna
you
make you
know,
ill. Where I am, the median house price is $1,200,000.
yeah, and we don't have a big inventory like that at all. So
No, if we were to take these houses and put them in Pensacola, they would probably be your $300,000 houses.
yeah, they probably would be 1,200 square feet for whatever. A former student of mine actually lives in Coronado. So it's just like they bought a house back in the 90s after she had graduated from here. And I said, "How you doing?" She goes, "We're doing good." um, but yeah, and so it's a different income level. It's a different, our biggest thing here is insurance because of the hurricanes and everything. And we're
Where
the
I am too.
highest insurance in the country, I believe, based on
Yep.
what I've
Yep.
heard.
Our
And
insurance is horrible right now because of the fires that we've had.
buyers. Yeah.
And so in our area, we can only get something called California Fair Plan, which is an amalgamation of all of the insurance, the big insurers coming together, creating a pool of money with the state of
Right.
California. And then the money comes through that. And I have heard recently through the grapevine that money is running out because of the Palisades fires and the previous
Oh,
fires that we've had. So basically, people are going to be paying an insane amount of money for these Fair Plan, which are about twice as expensive as regular insurance, and there won't be any coverage for them if their house actually burns down.
burns down. Yeah. And that's what's happening with our hurricane insurance. I think we may have three total insurance companies even still here.
Right.
And then it's like Lloyd's of London and Last Resort. And like I'm in a historical home. It's been here over 200 years. I'm on a hill and I am like a mile and a half away from the bay. And they go, "You need flood insurance." I go, "If this house flooded, then all of downtown Pensacola would be underwater by 10
It'd be
feet.
like a
You know,
tsunami.
I know. I said, and we have had water, but never come here this far.
Yeah.
And so but that's the way and they're making everybody who has this particular type of insurance, whether you're even close to water, you've got to get flood insurance because they got
Oh
to get
yeah.
their money back.
They
You
created
know,
a fire map in my area, and everybody who lives in the hills is a 9. And it goes from
um,
1 to 10. If you're above 5, you have to get California Fair Plan. And Allstate, State Farm, and for the most part, farmers have all moved out of the area.
left. Yeah.
So,
And this, I know we're getting way off what we're talking about. Maybe insurance is a big topic we should talk about.
huge,
Is
huge
that
topic.
if they're going to get our car insurance or our medical insurance or everything else, then, they should be held accountable to also fund us and insure our houses. Why do we let them insure us of everything else, but they don't want to do our houses? I don't know. Anyways, are there any questions you want to ask me? Because but it's good. This is great to hear.
I'll let you get back on track. I could sidetrack anybody, I swear to
Yeah.
God.
No, it's a good experience because we are totally in opposite ends of the country, very different markets. Yes, I'm in a vacation rental area, but income wise and everything else I have some friends here from California that are here. And of course, they love the gas at 250 a gallon, things like that. They said though the food is a little bit higher here because you guys have more ports and stuff bringing the food in,
Yeah.
whereas we don't. It's got to come across with trucking and stuff. But what else were they talking about? But yeah, the gas and the rentals, vacation rentals are much less, and housing's much less as
Yeah.
far as the pricing and things like
Mhm.
that. But yeah, they kind of said, we just like the gas prices for sure.
It's over twice as expensive where I am. And if you have a luxury car, which most people do, if
Oh,
it's running on
yeah.
if it's running on gas, it's even more
Yeah.
expensive than that. More like $6 a gallon.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that wouldn't be good over here. That's for sure. But anyway, it's a lot, even though it's the United States, different worlds, different things going on, income levels are very different. But real estate is still, I love it too. I'm trying to, at this point, trying to retire, but every time I say that, everybody says, what are you going to do if you retire? I said, I don't know, because I can still do what I'm doing, enjoy what I'm doing, and traveling and everything. Might as well keep doing it. Um,
There's no reason
yeah.
you can cut back. I had a
Yeah.
friend who passed away not that long ago who was a realtor into her 90s, and she was like she was like the belle of the ball. And back in like the 40s and 50s, she was quite the party gal. And she always loved to have a little bit too much to drink. You knew if there was going to be some Christmas party or something, at a certain point, a friend was like told to keep her away from the punch. Anyway, she got more than one DUI, and
Oh, geez.
she was in her 80s. And so she decided to make lemonade out of lemons. And so she just started driving her clients around in a limousine, a fully stocked limousine. And so she became famous
That's awesome.
to be at a broker
That's
tour, and she would drive up in this big limousine with her
awesome.
clients. And yeah, it was very cool. And I loved that attitude. I love people who are older who are doing incredible, amazing things. There's
Yeah,
no
they're
reason to
still,
ever stop. There's no reason to think your
yeah.
life is over at 65.
Oh no. And my grandmother, she worked for my uncle over there in LA till she was 93 in the office
Yeah,
of a
if you like what
golf
you're
club
doing,
company. Yeah,
no
and,
reason
and
to stop.
finally he had to fire her. He goes, no, you are done. Because he was having her delivered by a limo every day to work and back in 3 days a week. And he goes, oh no, we're not doing this anymore. But yeah, no. Is there, I know your Instagram and everything is all your first name, last name, real estate, correct? Or
Yes,
realtor? It's Andrea
yes.
Gordon Real Estate, correct?
Real estate, yes.
Okay. And so AndreaGordon.com is also your website.
My
Is
website
that
is andreagordon.com. Yes,
okay?
www.andreagordon.com.
Okay.
And also my email, if you want to email me, is andrea
Sure.
at andreagordon.com. So it's all very much the same.
And is your podcast available on
My
app?
podcast is available on Hulu, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and YouTube. That's what I know.
Okay.
And it's also on my website. I put them there in the blog section. I write the
Hmm.
real estate columns for two magazines. And so my blogs are very often the articles that have gone into those magazines. And yeah, I eat, live, breathe, sleep real estate at this point.
I know. You know what? I'm going to thank, this has been a great conversation. We went different ways. That's what I like about sip, sell, and repeat. Whether you have your coffee or whether you have a little glass of wine in the afternoon, like we are now, because it's closer to 7 o'clock over here in
Oh
Central
yeah,
Time.
go party, man.
Um, yeah, and it is Memorial Day weekend, and everybody
Yeah.
is out right now, so I'm moving that direction. But I want to thank you again for coming on and sharing with us. I'm
Sure.
going to check on your podcast too and see what we got going. I just love sharing all this information and then going and checking other people's out and learning. Constant learner, having a PhD, going to school forever. I used to tease when I started school at age 6 and I left at 42 because I was always in school teaching something,
Yep.
and I just have gotten into also doing classes in real estate and teaching younger realtors different things. And
Giving
so,
back. You get to a point where you want to give back.
yeah,
I'm so excited. I took up piano when I turned 60, and when I was 65, I bought myself a Steinway Grand, and I'm actually getting better. I take lesson every single week. I think that people who stop
yeah,
do it because of societal pressures and stuff, but you can actually just keep going and going and doing amazing things with the rest of your life. One of my very favorite poets, Mary Oliver, wrote incredible, beautiful, amazing poets her entire life. Wisdom is out there, and realize that it's not unique to a person. It's in the collective, it's in the collaborative, it's in the consciousness of everywhere.
thank you so much for sharing your wealth of information and experience. And it's been such a pleasure, Andrea.
I have really
And
enjoyed talking to you. You're great.
yeah, and if you ever want to come to Pensacola, Actually, I'm going to be over. I'm coming over. I'm a big WNBA fan, and so Valkyries are now in San Francisco for
Yeah.
women's basketball.
Yeah.
And I've got tickets. My friends are in Sacramento and in San Francisco, so we got tickets for when the Indiana Fever play them because
Oh,
of Caitlin Clark and Kate Martin.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I just get at a plane and go visit friends, and we go to a basketball game.
Well, when you
So,
come to the Bay Area, look me up. I'd love to
oh,
go to
I
coffee with
definitely
you.
will. I
All
will.
right.
I will definitely do that. Thank you so much, Andrea.
That's a wrap on this episode of Sip, Sell, Repeat. If you loved what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another powerhouse woman in real estate. Got a topic you want me to cover? Send me a message. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep sipping, keep selling, and keep repeating that cycle of success. Cheers to you and your next big deal.